If I knew how to juggle, this would be a really fun opening shot. But I definitely don't know how to juggle. Also, these potatoes are not equally sized, and I know that much about juggling. Maybe I could just like casually throw it in the air. Ooh! That wasn't so hard. Yeah, sweet potatoes. Ooh. Don't get cocky, Sarah. The sweet potato has a fascinating history and a profound cultural significance, particularly in the American South. And I encourage you to research this further if you find it interesting. I learned so much when I was working on these recipes. But very, very briefly, it's native to the Americas. It may actually be the first cultivated crop in the world. Like, humans have been growing sweet potatoes longer than they have been growing anything else, which is kind of mind-blowing. So you have this potato that's easy to grow, and it's easy to store, and it's nutritious. That makes it essential for subsistence farmers. So this is the kind of crop that would allow a family to become self-sufficient. So you can easily see how important this became to the food culture of that region. Today, sweet potatoes are still widely available and cheap. So even though we tend to associate them with the fall, winter season, I wanted to show you 3 ways that you can enjoy them all year round. I've halved these sweet potatoes and I'm going to rub them all over with olive oil, skin and flesh sides. And season them really well with salt and pepper. And I'm going to bake them at 400 degrees for about 40 minutes until they're soft throughout. When my potatoes are cool enough to handle, I'm going to scoop the flesh out into this bowl. I actually prefer to use a butter knife over a spoon. I just have a little bit more control that way. And I sometimes like to leave a little retaining wall around the outside of the potato just for structure. If the retaining wall doesn't work out as it's happening right now, you can see the flesh is just coming off of the potato really easily. That's okay, just be really careful not to pierce the bottom. I'm only going to do 2 potatoes for the sake of this demo because I'm going to repurpose the other ones and I don't really need to eat 4 twice-baked sweet potato halves. So anyway, to this halved portion of, of sweet potatoes, I'm going to add some sour cream, a little chipotle puree. Yes, the chipotle puree is back. You may recognize him from the pineapple episode. Some paprika, some garlic powder, some onion powder, and salt and pepper to taste. All of these measurements are to taste, and I really mean that. You can make it creamier, you can make it spicier, you can add more flavor. You really can't mess this up. So I'm just gonna taste it. Oh, I forgot the lime. That's really important. I guess you can mess it up. Now I will restuff my potato skins. Get all that filling in there. And I'll top them with some shredded cheddar cheese. And I'll just pinch the edges so they make a pleasing little boat shape, and everything will stay inside. And I'll put them under the broiler for about 5 minutes, just until the cheese is nicely browned on the top. Twice baked is a little bit of a misnomer because I'm not baking them a second time, just broiling them. I'm also going to watch them really, really carefully because with my broiler at least, the difference between nicely browned and burnt could be a split second. These look so pretty on a plate. I'll serve it with little lime wedges, a little sprinkling of paprika, and some scallions or chives. This is a great way to get the sweet potato naysayers in your family on board because the chipotle and the lime, they really balance out the flavor. It really doesn't taste like your typical baked sweet potato at all. And it's really versatile. It's a dinner side, it's a veggie forward lunch, it's a game day snack. And it's yummy. Here is your weeknight win. This is a pantry-friendly Thai-style red curry where the sweet potato is the star. It basically takes the place of the protein. For veggie prep, I've got a sweet potato that I peeled and chopped into half-inch to inch-sized cubes. I've got a yellow onion that I halved, quartered, and then sliced. And I've got a large clove of garlic that I've minced. If your cloves of garlic are on the small side, use 2. And I'm gonna make a little sauce with some pantry staples. So I have 2/3 of a cup of coconut milk and a tablespoon each of Thai red curry, crunchy peanut butter, and brown sugar. And I'll just whisk that to combine. Now I've got a tablespoon of vegetable oil in my skillet, and I've got it on medium to medium-high heat. When my oil's really, really hot, then I'll add my sweet potatoes. And I'll give them a few minutes head start before I add my onions. And I want to get a nice caramelization on them, just like that. But they don't have to be cooked through at this point because they're going to simmer in the sauce. And speaking of sauce, in that goes along with my garlic, half a cup of vegetable stock, and a splash of soy sauce. I'll mix that around to coat the potatoes. Then I'll turn the heat down to medium-low and let it simmer. After about 3 to 4 minutes, I'll test the potatoes for doneness and the sauce for salt. Yep, I'm happy with that. So I'm gonna add my frozen green beans. And as soon as they're thawed, this is done. I'm gonna serve this over rice. Smells so good. I'm gonna give it a squeeze of lime. I also gave it a hit of lime while it was still in the hot pan. And if you have a little cilantro, that's nice on here. My hands are wet from the lime, so the cilantro isn't as fresh looking and as pretty as I wanted it to be. And if you have some crushed peanuts, that would be nice on here for texture. I really love to eat sweet potatoes like this. I feel like most of the time when you make them, they're mashed or they're cooked down so they're really soft and creamy, and that's great. But I seared these like meat, you know? They feel really substantial. They're really fun to sink your teeth into, and it feels like a real meal. Of all the wonderful and delicious Southern food traditions that I've been lucky enough to engage with in my life, the sweet potato as dessert concept is a definite favorite. Sweet potato pie, sweet potato cake, I'm here for it. And that's how I feel about these pancakes, so I think you're gonna like them. The first thing I'm gonna do is make my pecan butter, and I'm gonna do that by combining everything in my food processor. I've got half a stick of butter that's a little bit softened. I've got 2 tablespoons of chopped pecans. My pecans are already chopped, but if you only have the whole ones, just put them in there first and give them a few pulses as a head start before you add everything else. And I've got a teaspoon of powdered sugar and half a teaspoon of cinnamon. And this is just a standard compound butter, which is a fancy name for butter with stuff in it. I'm just gonna put this in the fridge while I make my pancake batter. I'll mix up my wet ingredients first. This is just a cooked and mashed sweet potato. This is actually the potato that I didn't make the twice baked potatoes out of. I'm just gonna mix and mash this with my spoon until I've got a pretty even consistency. It doesn't have to be perfect. To that, I'm gonna add a 1/4 cup of sour cream and 3/4 cup of milk. And just a little vanilla extract. I'm gonna whisk that to combine. Again, this doesn't have to be perfectly smooth. If you've got some little chunks of sweet potato in there, I think that's fine. If that really bothers you and you want a smoother pancake, you can always throw this whole thing into the blender. All right, next we'll do our dry. I've got half a cup of flour, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 1/8 teaspoon baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. When that's nicely mixed, we'll add our wet ingredients to our dry, and that's our batter. I was always taught that you mix your wet ingredients and your dry ingredients separately when you make pancakes so that you don't over mix them. So actually that means I should probably stop mixing these. Now I'm melting a generous amount of butter in my brand new beautiful nonstick skillet. I got a new skillet for this episode. And when my pan is really hot and my butter is sizzling, I'm gonna spoon out my pancakes. This is a 12-inch skillet, so I'm gonna do 3 pancakes in here, about 3 inches wide. And this, of course, is pancake making 101, but when you see the bubbles start to form on the top, then you know it's time to flip them. Although, to be honest, I sometimes find those bubbles to be deceiving, so I like to sort of peek underneath first. Yeah, these are good. Another Pancake 101 tip. The second batch always comes out better than the first. It's like the pan has to kind of get into the groove again. He starts off a little bit unsure, and then pretty soon, oh yeah, I remember how to make pancakes. Good job, Pam. Those look great. Now I'm gonna add a nice little dollop of the pecan butter that I made. Don't worry, I've got more than that. I just want it to look pretty. And I'm gonna finish it with a little drizzle of honey. Obviously you can use maple syrup, but I don't like it. I know that's weird. I don't hate it. If I get pancakes at a diner, I'll have a little bit, but I don't keep it in the house. I'm excited. Now, remember that these are sour cream pancakes, so they're a little bit gooier in the middle than your typical pancakes are. They're not undercooked, do not be alarmed. I think you're really gonna love the melt in your mouth kind of texture that they have. Yeah, that's really good. And what I like about these is that they're simple enough to make for yourself, but they're fancy enough for an occasion. And it's seeming like we're gonna be able to have friends over for brunch again pretty soon, fingers crossed. So that will definitely be something to celebrate. And there you have it. That's 3 ways to win with sweet potatoes. Thanks for joining me. As always, you can find all of these recipes online at wingredients.com. Subscribe if you like what you see. I'll see you next time.